every year, like we think about in February, like who we love. And sometimes we forget about that platonic love and the people who love us and will show up. Um, like I was talking about, like my community is so strong. Like I have I have some of the best girlfriends in the world who will show up for me and my family on my behalf if we need anything in the world. And it's just really important to harness those relationships, and show your children really strong adult friendships so that they know who they can go after.
Hi, welcome to Say More Words, a podcast that was created to emphasize the human experience through stories. I hope that you come here to learn, to expand, and most importantly, learn how to say more words. Speak your story, speak your truth, boo boo. We're so happy you're here.
Hey, hi, how are you? Happy to be back. Today's song of the day, friends, I am in a weird era. I avoided it for a very long time, very similar to me avoiding Taylor Swift for a long time. But I am in my Sabrina Carpenter era. I am. And Sabrina Carpenter, Chappelle Roan, I don't even know if I'm saying that right, but I'm obsessed with them. And so today's song of the day is Bed Kim. It is not G-rated. It is wonderful. Lots of play on words, and I love when artists do that. So, boom, there you go. Today we're talking about my favorite topic, Galentines. At the time of this recording, Valentine's was last week, and I subscribed to the holiday, the women's holiday of Galentine's Day, which is February 13th. And I was talking with my team. I'm like, what am I going to talk about? And Jeremy said, you need to talk about Galentine's Day and why it's like super important. So that's what we're talking about today. And Galentine's Day, February 13th, the term was coined by Leslie Knope, the prophet Leslie Knope from Parks and Rec. And it was when she developed it. It was like ovaries before broveries. And it was an opportunity to just really hype up your girlfriends. It's all about that. And she goes over the top with gifts and just really being in girl friendships. Last week, my business neighbor, her name is Rosie Van, and she owns Rose and Rivets. And so we had our first business baby, we called it. So we did a joint happy hour event. She does happy hour every Thursdays, and we did it as a Galentine's event where our friends could come and have really good meats and cheeses and desserts and and champagne, of course, and be in camaraderie together. And so why I'm talking about this now and why I'm talking about this on the podcast and why this is super important is because this is about Galentine's Day, I guess, but it's more about girl friendships. Because we forget how important it is. The media did a really good job in the early, if you were born in the 80s and the 90s and grew up and were influenced in your teen years of the early 2000s, we were inundated with things like Mean Girls and the narrative of, or like Bring It On, like the narrative of the Mean Girls and the cliques and all of that, which is very real in high school. But what is, I think, super ridiculous is that while we're in high school and middle school, when our hormones are rampaging and we're mean to each other, we think that that's normal. And then we continue that on because nobody really talks about it. Nobody really heals through. We have a lot of parents who never healed through those negative relationships or were never shown positive adult relationships. And so then that cycle keeps going. It is an absolutely mind-boggling thing to me when I hear that there are women my age or older who are like, well, we can't do this because of that person, or we can't do that because of that person, or this or that, like just ridiculous shit that still happens today because people have not really healed through their mean girl era. What's really important, I think, here in this space, now, I do have some men who are listening, so if you are not a woman, I apologize, but maybe you're raising one or you're married to one, to talk about really the importance of female relationships. When you look at it from a sociological aspect, female relationships have been really, really important because primally they're the ones that like obviously birthed the humans, but they cared for the humans. They were the gatherers. They were the community builders. That was their job. This is primally, okay? So don't come at me with whatever you choose to believe in today. It's totally fine, but I'm saying primally that's what it was. Men were their providers, they were the hunters, and the women cared for the community. And we had that exact same model throughout history. If you look, like the women cared for the children in the community, the children in the community. And what was really cool about that is that the women had the opportunity to gather and to talk and share stories. If you look at a lot of the ancient texts and things like that, a lot of the storytellers were women. The people who were telling the stories and carrying on generational stories started with women. They were the ones that wrote it down. It's how a lot of our history was written. Actually, a really fun if you're interested in studying the sociological aspects of women, a really great book called When Women Ruled the World is all about the Egyptian moms and the Egyptian queens, because obviously we know the queens, like the big ones, Cleopatra, Nefertiti, like we know their big names, but we are often amiss of the moms who are raising the ones that were kings, because they became king if their dad died or their brother died. And so we had some kings that were like 8 years old. So it wasn't actually this 8-year-old ruling the kingdom. It was with the advice of his mom ruling the kingdom. So it's just kind of a cool book to read to learn a little bit more about the history of the women of Egypt who helped the kings of Egypt. Anyways, so we had this, there's always been a sense of community amongst women. It's how society has continued to grow and move, is a community amongst women. And I actually gave a training yesterday to a large group of teachers, primarily women. I think there was one man in the group. And I was talking to this about them, like how it's so very important for us to communicate and to come together in community. I love to ask the question, do you know what invention started to damage female relationships? And they all kind of looked at me and they're like, I have no idea. And it was actually the invention of the washing machine. Now, the washing machine has been like the textiles and turning and things like that existed in the 1700s and 1800s, but it was actually the invention of a electric powered washing machine that was affordable enough for everybody in the middle class and above to have inside of their homes, that stopped or changed, not stopped, it didn't stop female relationships, but it changed female relationships. And it took it from everyone in the community, all of the women in the community coming together to wash clothes and care for the kids. And now they were segregated off into their homes because they were able to afford the washing machine. So this happened in the 1950s. And if you look at the history of women, a lot of things started to change then in the 1950s. Now, lots of wonderful, beautiful things started to happen after that. Things started to change. There was good things that happened. But what happened when we took women and put the need to clean their home or to clean their clothes and stuff inside of their home, they became separate from their people. They gathered less. That's when it was the invention of the washing machine that started this kind of trickle out of community inside of women. Now, I will tell you, do not take my washing machine from me. Do not make me wash these. Do not make me wash these clothes by hand. I don't want to do it. Absolutely not. So that's super important. Like, don't do that to me. But when we look, women started to drift apart. And then every time they came together, they drifted apart. And it became like a social thing. We are the most connected generation that has ever existed via the interwebs, but we are the most disconnected. And that comes from a lack of community and a lack of safety. So once the 1950s happened and women started going to their homes, then gossip started to rampage and things started to happen and community started to change and female relationships just started to change. It's just what happened. And so What's also important here too to note is that when the community stopped gathering as much, or the women stopped gathering as much with the children, what we stopped seeing was strong adult relationships. So one of the things I want you to think about, like, what does strong adult friendships and relationships look like to you while you were growing up? It's a really interesting thing to think about, like which one of your parents was the more social one, which of your parents had friends more, which aunts and uncles did you learn when you were an adult weren't actually blood related, but you've known them your whole life. Having really strong adult relationships is really, really important. It is important for community. It's important for survival. Like, relationship is more than business. It's more than the people that you live by. It's at a deeper root. And so really sitting thinking about what did your parents show you, and what is your reality? Like, what does it look like for you to have those relationships and to have those conversations and to be in that space? It's just really important for kids too to see strong female relationships. It just is. And that's one of the things that went away when we stopped caring for our kids like not in forced communities, but like in communities no less. Galentine's Day, I loved when Leslie Knope brought Galentine's Day into the forefront, because it became a place for us to celebrate our female friends and to kind of remove that mean girls notion. We don't, as women, standardly, we don't support each other. We don't hype each other up. We don't, because of that mean girl mentality that was placed on us and kind of fed and bred. And so Galentine's Day exists, and I think that you should have a Galentine's Day every day of the month. But it exists as a reminder that female friendships are very, very important. It's how communities have been built and grown. And yes, men, you have a very important role in our society as well. And I'm not saying that you don't, but I am saying that the bond that exists between women is very, very important, and it's something that should be cherished and longed for and nurtured. So if you're kind of in this space where you're like, gosh, like, I don't even know who my community is, I don't know who has my back, we can get kind of like, that's what's really hard for women too, and with being stuck in the house and like being removed from community sometimes, is that we start to question ourselves or doubt ourselves or think negatively about ourselves or kind of be in this weird space. And I challenge you, if you feel like you're all alone, one, I know that you're not. You can easily go online and find, like, put out and ask for help, and there will be people there. But I will challenge you to really think about your core and what helps make you tick, what helps make you grow. Like, I joke all of the time, like, I was not meant to raise these babies by myself, because I have that core belief and that primal belief that we need each other to keep going. And so, my friend or my kids do have a lot of aunts and uncles who will show up for them, who will care for them, that are not blood related. Like, it's a really, really powerful space to be in, to have people care for your people in such a way. Galentine's Day exists so you can hype up your people, so you can be with your people and you can hype up the women in your life. You can create a space every year. Like, we think about in February, like, who we love. And sometimes we forget about that platonic love and the people who love us and will show up. Like I was talking about, like, my community is so strong. Like, I have some of the best girlfriends in the world who will show up for me and my family on my behalf if we need anything in the world. And it's just really important to harness those relationships, and show your children really strong adult friendships so that they know who they can go after. One of the best things my dad ever told me, I had a issue, like, I don't know, you're in high school and you have an issue with your friend. And my dad told me very young age, he's like, I have 5 friends. Like, I have those 5 people that I know that if I call tomorrow, they're going to show up. And what's really funny is that I think 3 of them showed up for his 3 of the 5 showed up for his funeral, to show up for his girls. And it was a very powerful thing, because he's like, you can have friends, you can have acquaintances, but you need to know who your community is. And you need to pour into your people. You need to pour into your community. Pick up the phone, call instead of just sending a text message. Be in this space together. Galentine's Day is about community. And if you don't feel like you have strong female connections, reach out to me. My information is in the show notes. We would love to include you and bring you into our community. So this is just a start of talking about female friendship and female relationships and why it's important. But Galentine's Day is it's a funny name and a fun way to celebrate your people. So it would fill my heart with joy if you would just go out today and celebrate your people in some way, shape, or form. Do a post, call them, send them an email, send them some flowers if you want to. Just go out and spread the love and make sure you're bringing your community in. That's how we truly change the world, friends. That's how we change the world. One smile, one happy feeling at a time. I'm so excited you're here. I'm so happy to be in this space with you. Thanks for listening, and happy Galentine's Day.